Hello, welcome to Starspace. I am Toad. We had a strange visitor in that void in space we found, so we moved the station to another location.
We can't stay here very long either, it turns out.
That's Scully.
Hi, I'm Scully.
So according to the station's science stuff, these two small planets we can see out the windows are about to collide. Any minute now, actually. So we thought we would watch.
Personally, I think we're a little too close to the action.
It'll be fine. Ringside seats, if you will. Also, we need to finalize a few minor space station changes. We'll show the map during the credits. Anyone keeping tabs can pause and have a look if they care to do so. Meanwhile, while we wait for this cosmic event to unfold right before our eyes... Okay, so as you might know if you've seen the show before, we started hosting this public domain comic book, Unusual Interplanetary Adventures Space Action. We've done 3 tales so far, and after the 3rd story, we hit a slight snag. Between the 3rd story and the 4th story is a 2-page written story. After hosting 3 stories from this book, we decided we wanted to host the entire book. So, to make it a bit more interesting visually, I drew the story myself. First of all, I am no comic artist, and secondly, it's just something I did in a few hours, so keep your expectations very low. But hopefully it will add a little flavor to 2 pages of written words. Without further ado, The Green Menace of Landar.
With art by Toad.
Well, just pencil and Sharpie marker stick people without even any cleanup.
Just show the comic.
The Green Menace of Landar. Only Parn was bitter when Thaldo, ruler of Landar, announced the betrothal of his daughter Rospa to Warren the Earthman. Disappointment ate into Parn's heart, and he thought this was his reward for his service to Thaldo and Landar, too. The long hours in the laboratory, the sleepless nights striving to solve the mysteries of the unknown, to help make Landar great and Thaldo famous. He sneered cynically now, his dour face scowling with inner rage, as he watched them dancing in the courtyard below. All through the capital city, Manthos, the citizens were celebrating the announcement. Only Parn was bitter, for he loved the beautiful Rospa and had hoped her father would see the logic of Parn as a mate for the girl.
The accursed Earthman, he said aloud. If I had my way, his bones would be rotting in the desert of Basha.
He turned away from the balcony railing and walked rapidly down the corridor. He entered his laboratory and turned on the light. His eyes traveled over the reticules, test tubes, flasks, all the equipment that made up his life's work, for Parn was the greatest scientist on Landar. He smiled as he fondled a cylindrical tube. For this contained his latest discovery. The deadly green gas known only as N. It was still Parn's secret. The cylinder contained enough capsules to destroy an entire army. He heard footsteps outside the laboratory and dropped the cylinder into his pocket, turning to face the door which swung open.
It was Thaldo, he said. I saw the light, and took the liberty. Parn, Warren has left. He is on a diplomatic mission to Saturn. But, Parn, where were you?
Parn drew himself to his full height. I stayed away. Did you think I would attend such an affair? It was a mockery. An outrage to the citizens of Landar.
Thaldo stepped closer. What are you saying? Raspa loves Warren. I know what's eating you, Parn. You love her, too. You're jealous. Well, you stay here in the laboratory where you belong. My daughter marries whom she will.
Then rage shook Parn and he lost his sense of discretion. He screamed, "It was my inventions that made you great. Without me, you would be nothing, a ruler without a nation, an outlaw hiding in the hills.
He was cut short by a sharp slap from Thaldo. Thaldo's face was white, his voice tense, as he said quietly, "We were part of the movement to liberate Landar from the Moon Men. I was a soldier. You a scientist. We worked together that way. But now, you've spoken your piece, Parn. You're dangerous. You know what that means."
Parn said, "Yes, I suppose you'll exile me too, so, eh?"
"Right," Thaldo said. "Fortunately we have no capital punishment on Landar, or you would be executed. Prepare to leave in an hour."
Parn bowed slightly. He could have escaped easily. One whiff of the green gas and Thaldo would have been horribly dead. One whiff of the green gas and Thaldo would have been horribly dead.
You're an idiot.
But in Parn's mind, a plan was forming, a crafty, treacherous plan. Once on Zo, the small mass that was within Landar's gravity orbit, he would be with other political exiles. Each of these men had cause to hate Thaldo. Each would be ready to strike a blow against him. Parn smiled faintly. He would yet get his revenge on Thaldo, and have respect too. The weeks passed quickly on, so Parn had made his plans, and explained them to his fellow conspirators. They were seated in a rude cabin on the farther side of Zo. His glance took them in Trath, the general who had attempted a revolution, Casco, the one-time foreign minister who had made a bad treaty, Hondo, who had sold military secrets of Landar to Jupiter, and the others. All desperate men, eager to get back to Landar and to strike a blow against Thaldo. Parn said, "You all understand what is to be done. Tomorrow, we strike our first blow. We will wipe out the garrison here, steal the rocket ships, and land on the barren shore of Landar. Understood?"
Trath said, "This gas. Now, how do we know it won't affect us? I've seen it work on rabbits and small animals, but will it have any effect on us?"
Parn explained, "I have not wasted my time here. I have used it to very good advantage." He showed them a large, transparent plastic container, which was filled with pills. Under the guise of compounding headache pills in the post-medical headquarters pharmacy, I made up these pills, which contain a compound that neutralizes the green gas. It was amusing to me to work under the eyes of Thaldo's security officer. He smiled grimly. "For the first time in history, an army numbering only 30 men will conquer a nation. For with my gas, nothing can stand before us. For with my gas, nothing can stand before us."
Okay, enough of that.
Trath said, "I don't think it will work. After all, if Thaldo mobilizes Group A, we're licked."
The others nodded. But Parn smiled grimly. "Group A numbers exactly 100 men. You seem to forget that since my invention, the atomic death ring, Landar has been practically without an army. There has been no danger of invasion, for no one can penetrate the ring around Landar. The last military action was when Trath attempted an insurrection, and that was 15 years ago."
But Trath pressed his point. "I still say that if Group A catches us with those spray guns, we'll be out of luck."
Parn said, "Trust me. You see, we still hold an ace. According to Landar ritual, Raspa must go to the Temple of Vord to take her nuptial vows. If we can kidnap her, Group A will never be mobilized, and Thaldo will do as we ask."
Trath nodded. "You're a KG-1. All right, Parn. When do we start?"
Parn said, "At Guard Mount tomorrow. Exactly at noon."
It was all over very quickly. Zo was manned by an officer and 10 enlisted men. As they formed up for Guard Mount, Parn passed by. Aiming his cylinder, he squirted a small green stream of the gas at the soldiers. A green cloud enveloped them, and in a moment, they were dead, their flesh turning a ghastly green. Parn had handed his followers anti-gas pills. Each of them had taken one, and even as the cloud settled over the unfortunate soldiers, Barnes' men ran among them, seizing weapons and ammunition belts from the bodies of the fallen. In a group they ran for the rocket spaceship hangars. A burst of bullets from a spray gun cut down the guard at the hangar and the intercosmic radio operator, before the latter had a chance to send a message. Then, the conspirators were loaded into the rocket ships, and the 4 carriers that made up the Zoo patrol fleet was soon winging toward the barren north shore of Landar. An hour later, they had landed, and were marching double quick toward the Temple of Vord. They used the green gas again to capture a jet-drive autobus to speed them on to Vord. They hurled the corpses of men, women and children, who had been passengers on the ill-fated bus, into a ditch, and sped on their way. There was no trouble at the Temple of Vord. They captured Raspa quite easily. She was meditating in the great room of the temple, after the fashion of the noble women of Landar. They burst in, and a whiff of the green gas dispatched the high priestess. Raspa turned at the commotion, only to have a blow from a spray gun but knock her senseless. Now, they stood before the palace at Menthos, and if there had been any thought of mobilizing Group A, the crack shock troops of Landar, it was too late, for Parn's gas had caught the men in their barracks, and all were dead.
Parn relished the thought of facing Theldo, and in a few moments he had his wish. Theldo came before him, guarded by 2 of the conspirators. Parn had sent an ultimatum ahead by special courier. Either Theldo gave in, or Raspa died. The demands were that Parn become ruler of Landar, and Raspa be made his queen. That Warren, the Earthman, be executed on sight, and that the insurgents be placed in power.
Now Thaldo glared at his captor. "I'll never give in," he shouted. "Never."
But Parn merely smiled. The unconscious Raspa was brought in and placed on the floor. Parn said, "In 2 seconds, I'll turn the gas on her." "Which is it, Thaldo?" He pointed the cylinder. Thaldo knew how deadly the gas was, so, sadly, he consented. Parn signaled 2 of the men forward. He pointed to Thaldo. "See that he's locked up." Then he gathered Raspa into his arms and carried her into the palace. He set her down on a couch and, holding a bottle of smelling salts under her nose, brought her to. He smiled at her. "You are to be my bride, Raspa."
She made no reply, but glared at him with complete hatred.
Meanwhile, as Thaldo was being led to the dungeons below the palace, and his 2 guards led him around a dark corner, a figure stepped out of the shadows, and with 2 swift blows from a spray gun butt, smashed his captors to the floor. Thaldo said, "I was hoping you'd come."
It was Warren, the Earthman. "I acted as soon as you sent me the radio distress message. Parn figured everything but that you'd get alarmed if there was no report from Zoo. Well, I hurried there and found them all dead. Fortunately, some of the gas that had killed them gathered in a hollow, and our Earth chemists were able to analyze it." Warren left. "Parn is really due for a surprise. Our people were able to whip up an antidote to the gas. A pill. All my men have taken it, so they are immune. We're ready to attack at once. My men have been hiding in the sub-basement for 2 days now. If Parn only knew I had been watching his every move since he came back to Manthos." The end was swift. Parn and his followers were celebrating their victory when Warren and his men appeared. Spray guns chattered, and Parn turned on the gas cylinder. He was horrified when it had no effect. He died with the grimace of horror on his face as Warren's spray gun cut him down.
Some minutes later, Thaldo smiled as he saw his daughter Raspa and Warren smiling into each other's eyes, and thought how wonderful it was to have a son-in-law who would someday be able to take over. The end.
And there you have it. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it, despite Scully's interruptions, or perhaps because of 2 things I regret, but not enough to repair and recompile, are the story states 4 ships, and I drew 3. And the story states smelling salts, and I drew the green vial. Oh, and he should have been holding the gas gun. Otherwise, meh. It is what it is. Well, we're still waiting for these planets to collide, so how about we have a close look at a robot mech from the cargo hold while we listen to a song from my favorite band, Orbiting Spy. Alright, Orbiting Spy with a song titled Photograph Paragraph. Special thanks to Stories of Nature.
Hey, Toad. The computer says the event will happen any second now.
Oh, cool. Okay, so thanks for watching. We're gonna go so we can watch this. We'll see you next time.
For with my gas, nothing can stand before us.